It's the first week, full week in October. That's right, here we go. One of my favorite months, October. I don't know how you feel about it, but it's a nice month. Usually weather change. It's a little cooler. Uh, Fall somewhat here. But in the church calendars, it's chock full of saints. That's what I like about it as well. So I'd like to read from the gospel, which I didn't look at till now, Luke chapter 10, 25. There was a scholar of the law who stood up to test Jesus and said, Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life? Jesus said to him, What is written in the law? How do you read it? He said in reply, You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your being, with all your strength, with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. He replied to him, You have answered correctly. Do this, and you will live. But because he wished to justify himself, he said to Jesus, And who is my neighbor? Jesus replied, A man fell victim to robbers as he went down from Jerusalem to Jericho. They stripped him, beat him, and went off, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down that road, but when he saw him, he passed by on the opposite side. Likewise, a Levite came to the place. When he saw him, he passed by the opposite side. But a Samaritan traveler who came upon him was moved to compassion at the sight. He approached the victim, poured oil, wine over his wounds, and bandaged him. He lifted him up on his own animal, took him to an inn, cared for him. The next day he took out 2 silver coins and gave them to the innkeeper with the instruction, Take care of him. If you spend more than what I have given you, I shall pay you on your way back. Which of these 3, in your opinion, was neighbor to the robbers? Victim. He answered, Those who treated him with mercy. Jesus said, Go and do likewise. Well, before I come to that little sharing of the reading, today is a feast of St. Bruno. Most of us probably would have really any knowledge about, but he was the founder of the Capuchin order. Now, these Capuchins are the early sort of monks, hermit there, out there by, up by France. They're very austere life, right? The joining must be aged between 21 and 45. Each cell has a high, they live in each little cell, like a little room, has a high garden where the monk may meditate as well, grow flowers or vegetables for himself, for the good community, and also a form of physical exercise. And it's very strict. There's a little movie about it. Boy, they just kind of live themselves. They're vegetarians. And dinner time, they come, who is in charge of the kitchen cooking, they come and there's like a little slot. They put like a lazy Susan, they put it on. So they don't even have contact, like, hey, what's going on? Nothing. No, just get the food and just by themselves all day. And the room is not all that big. That's where they read, they pray. I don't know how much exercise you can do in the little room. And, the weather nice, I guess go outside and do some work outdoors. I think on Sundays, though, they do have, quote, recreation where they can go for a walk together. It's a tough life, a life centered on prayer and seeking God. It's incredible. It's incredible. Anyway, so this reading about the Good Samaritan, we're all familiar with it. In fact, I started my church started a medical clinic, and we were going to call it the Padre Pio, but I had a Baptist minister came and said he'd like to help. So at that point, I didn't feel comfortable calling it after St. Padre Pio. It might be more inclusive. So we called it the Good Samaritan after this gospel. And in fact, that 2,000-year story here, we know what it means, Good Samaritan. It sticks with us, right? Someone's kind on the road. Good, he's being a good Samaritan. I think there's a law, the Good Samaritan law or something like that. Is that right? If you help somebody, I think they give you a little, in case things don't go well, you're, I think, covered by the Good Samaritan. Well, the thing about this, the question was, who is my neighbor? And Jesus never answered that question. Who is my neighbor? Meaning how far, how close, next town, 2 towns over, my own, saint. Not at all. He answered how to be a good neighbor, to love your neighbor. And boy, it's really extreme, isn't it? Who would do that? One thing, helping somebody and put them in an inn and then say, listen, you take care of it, I'll come back and I'll pay whatever expense. Wow. Just today in my small group, we asked the question, if we had to grade ourselves on our love for the poor, what grade would you give yourself? Well, if this is the grade, the example we need to follow, I'm in trouble, and I think many of you would be as well. So Lord, help us. First and foremost, to feel the other's pain, feel compassion before we feel judgment. And Lord bless you, and be a blessing to others.